Hello, it's James here. We're halfway through the series and we are thrilled with everyone's responses. We do have a favour to ask. If you would be so kind as to go onto the iTunes or the podcast app and leave us a review, give us a rating and let us know what you're thinking about the show. It would mean so much to us and it means that we get Swipe Match Marry out to a larger audience. So let's get on with it. Here is episode 6.
I've had love handles since I was 4.
What?
Boom, 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 yeah, get your kit off.
Oh great, we're back on the vaginas.
It's bendy.
I actually took it to go away.
I want more penises here.
Don't shag cows.
Clitoris.
Please never do that in my house. Hello and welcome to Swipe Match Marry, the modern relationship and dating podcast. I'm James.
I'm Marny.
And I'm Steve.
Join us as we explore love, life and dating in London.
Do we have to adapt to find love?
How do you find and define your sexuality?
Has the internet ruined dating?
We're going to be discussing all of this and more as we attempt to unlock the code to modern dating culture.
Please be aware that this podcast contains adult content, sexual themes and strong language, which is the only reason why I'm here. Now let's get into the show. Hello everyone and welcome to Swipe Match Marry.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Thanks for listening. Now, one of the questions that we set out to answer when we started this podcast was, how do you find and define your sexuality?
Uh-oh.
And I think it's important for us to say that this isn't a podcast that's aimed at straight people, isn't a podcast that's aimed at gay people. It's just a podcast that is about dating and finding people and how hard that can be in London. It's not about being single, it's not about being in a relationship, it's just about
So our demographic
life.
is everything, really.
And it's the rewards and joyfulness of finding somebody.
Absolutely. And I think for me it's about the fact that it's the same for everyone, really. But one of the most important things, I think, is discovering about yourself. And certainly through dating over the past couple of years and also talking to you guys about it on the podcast, I've learned quite a lot about myself, really. I've learned that I'm quite shallow and judgmental, isn't my?
Well, you're not really.
A little bit. Like, when we talked about deal breakers particularly, I really only focused on what people were wearing and what they looked like, and I've really realised that doesn't matter and it shouldn't matter. And certainly, I guess defining and finding your sexuality probably links more to you, James, than anyone else, really.
Oh, yes, that was an adventure.
What, becoming gay?
Well, I'm not becoming gay. I didn't apply for a pass. No, just
do a job interview.
Getting to 20 and sort of someone telling you that you were gay and you're like, no, I'm not. And then them sort of explaining that the behaviour that I was doing towards this particular guy wasn't sort of normal friendship stuff. It was definitely like we were in a relationship. It was definitely a bit of an adventure. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Especially when you've been, well, they say in the closet, but I kind of don't think I was in the closet. I think if you're in the closet, you know that you're gay, like really know it, and you can't come out for a specific reason. I still have friends that have family that make it difficult for them to be open.
I've got a gay friend whose parents don't know he's gay.
And I think that's just dreadful because what a waste of life. I kind of say to people that are younger than me that are struggling, I say that it's not up to them and it's not within their control how people are going to react to their announcement. It doesn't even have to be an announcement. It's not this great big scary thing that it was.
Me.
I know.
It shouldn't be an announcement.
It's not. And I do get that people are scared of how their family are going to react. And I'm lucky because the majority of mine were fine about it. And in fact, they knew before I did, to which my response was, well, I wish you could have bloody told me. But I do find it strange that people, I can't tell my parents, or my parents are funny about it. I'm like, well, be funny.
Yeah.
Be offended. Nothing happens, as that strange Australian comedian said. And I think that for people to put their life on hold, or a substantial amount of their life on hold, is terrifying. I had this strange thing when I told I had to tell my mum first, because my stepfather was brought up very sort of like boarding school, the age of 7, very regimented, and I was a bit scared about telling him. So I told my mum, and she was great. She was really wonderful about the whole thing, and she was only kind of upset because this was 10 years ago. She was only upset about the thought that she might not have grandchildren, because at the time that wasn't really a thing about gay couples adopting, or it was certainly a bit more of a taboo thing. So she was a bit upset about that. Obviously now, like, the chances of us having children is much greater, and something I definitely want to do. So that was the only thing she found a struggle, as being her only child. And then I remember her telling my stepfather, and he was a bit funny about it because he was a bit of a weirdo anyway. And they both became a bit weird about the whole thing. And I remember it was just a few weeks before my graduation, and she phoned me up and said, "Oh, well, I've told him, but he's not happy about it, and we're sort of just wondering about whether it's the right thing for you, and whether..."
What, gay?
Well, yeah, I know it sounds awful, but I do understand it.
Are they thinking, oh, it's a phase?
No, I don't think they were. I think they were just thinking how difficult it was going to be for me. They thought it was going to be a really hard slog, and I guess they thought that there was some choice involved. And I can tell you now, if you are under any illusion that you think choice has got anything to do with it, you're wrong. It's not a choice, and it is just something you either have or not. And I'm not saying whether it's nature or nurture. I'm saying it's something that happens to you, and this is the way you are. And I remember saying, okay, well, that's fine. It's not something I can control. If you're going to be funny about it, then I really don't want you coming to my graduation, because it's this day is about me, as selfish as that sounds, and I can't deal with this right now. I've come out in the middle to end of my university experience. I've taken a while to tell you because I wanted to make sure it was what was going to happen. And I can't deal with you telling me that it's anything other than what's my life is destined to be. But it's not. It's absolutely not a choice, and I think that maybe is what they thought it was. And then I think a day or two before my graduation, they phoned me and they said, "Oh, we're sorry, and please can we come?" And we totally understand. And I think that it just sort of gave them a couple of weeks headspace around the whole thing. I'd moved out; it wasn't affecting them at all. I think they sort of just realised that it'd taken quite a lot of guts to tell them, and trust me, the conversation is not fun.
But this is what I hope, that we get to a point where there isn't a conversation. It's not a thing. It's not an announcement. It shouldn't be. And I know for a fact that if I ever have children at any point in my life, I'll say to my kids, we're going round to see James and his boyfriend Simon, and that's just a thing. It's not going to be a thing. It will just be normal.
Yeah, well, it won't be a taboo.
It's not going to be a taboo thing. It's just going to be a standard part of life where it's not even questioned.
And I think that is starting to happen. You do see these videos pop up on Facebook or on YouTube of conversations that they have with kids where they talk about, we're going to see Mr. and Mr. and they're like, why do they live together? It's like, oh, they're in love together. Oh, so can a man love a man? Yeah, they can. And they're like, oh, well, that's fine. That's good. And they understand it. And they're not judgmental or opinionated by it. And I generally believe that hatred is something that you learn as you grow up.
Definitely.
No
and it's fear, really, isn't it?
And it's hatred and fear and pressure as you grow up that makes you feel certain ways about things. And it doesn't matter.
No, of course
it genuinely doesn't matter. But on the same point, you shouldn't have had a coming out party. Do you know what I mean? It should just be, this is who I am. Okay,
I mean, the last 10 years has been a coming out party. I mean, it's a weird thing, and my other half's family have been really great about it. But there was I remember a time on our first Christmas with his family that one of his nephews or second cousins, a young member of the family, had sort of seen us on the sofa being quite close, not intimate by any means, but just sort of being close. And I remember him saying something like, "Oh, are you in love or something?" And my other half repeated, "Yes." And you could just see this kid's like thought processes. And my other half was like, "Yep, just process that and just deal with that." And then it's sort of never been a thing. But you've got to, I mean, education with kids is so important, isn't it? It's just a way of making sure that it's not taboo. It's just something they grow up with, which is one of the reasons why I stayed in the closet so long, because it wasn't, I stayed in the closet, it's one of the reasons why I was so heavily in denial that I couldn't even come out to myself, let alone anyone else, because just you didn't grow up around it. It just wasn't a thing.
Well, this is it, you know, my dad's cousin is gay, And he was treated like some kind of exotic creature. This is
Yeah.
Stoke-on-Trent, 1990s.
Like an iguana.
Do you know what I mean? And it was like, oh, you know, Jeffrey's
In a Bavarian.
gay. And to me, I just don't. It's not even a thing for me. I
But
don't
how
even
lucky
process
are
it.
we that we're in this generation where it's not a thing?
Oh my God.
I
it's
think,
20,
yeah.
30 years ago, you know, even further, it must have been so hard for them, and you've really got to appreciate it, because they were the people that were fighting for these rights that we're now living with.
Oh,
It's just
absolutely.
really cool for us.
Absolutely.
You know.
And we wouldn't have got to this place without all of them together, combined and individually. And that's what I kind of take from it. And the thing with pride and stuff, I don't really do pride, because I feel like, well, I did feel like you don't really need it. But someone said recently that it's not about celebrating that you're gay. It's just kind of a marking of the people that have done something for us. And I think that that's the most important thing, is I never take it for granted that I'm allowed to be, especially in London, just a free gay man. I can kiss my fiancée down the street, and you always feel a little sort of pang of...
Do you like that?
No,
I
you
hope
do.
we reach a point where that people don't.
But we're
feel
not.
that.
We're not there yet.
I
but
love
actually,
it when I see lesbian couples and gay couples.
Yeah, totally.
Doing that. I
Totally.
just feel so proud that that's kind of normal.
But
and
I
it should be
think
normal.
we're the sort of mid-generation. I think we've had all the pioneers, and then we're the people that are sort of living with a mix. It's sort of the changing era.
Yeah.
And then I think eventually people are not going to get that feeling, because I do still get that feeling. I don't really like public displays of affection anyway with anybody, because it's gross.
Yeah.
But I like the feeling of being close with my partner in public, or just when I want to. But I always have that thing. I always have that, oh God, I'm gay and this is not normal. But it doesn't last very long, but it's still
Good.
there. And
Yeah.
I think that it will change, I'm sure.
And is that based on location of where you are? Do you feel that more in certain areas? I mean, we've got to
Oh, I mean, if you're in
accept.
Soho, I mean, you can do what
I
you
mean, it's a
like.
free for all. I mean, we've got to accept that we are very, very lucky in, well, I know London especially, but England, how welcoming we are to people being who they are. But generally in the world, it really is upsetting, the fact that just because that person is gay in that location, they've been sentenced to death. Whereas if only they were born
Well, it's like,
somewhere else, it would just
it's
be
absurd.
everyday
It's
life.
like, it reminds me of sort of medieval, prehistoric
It's
witch
witch
burnings,
hunting.
isn't it? It's just,
Yeah.
it's nonsense.
It's fear of the unknown, and I think that's
Yeah.
a lot of the thing, because it's something that could be argued that it's slightly diverse. People don't understand it.
No.
So
I think
because
when-
it's different to them. So it's hard to compute.
Well,
I don't
people
know.
are scared.
I feel like I'm
it's
trying to
it's the
justify it.
fear.
I don't feel that way, so I find it very hard
No,
to
of course.
justify.
But it is difficult for us to get in their headspace. But I guess the only thing I keep coming back to is that if you think for 1 second it's a choice that anyone makes, then you're wrong. You are straight, and that is not your choice. And it's
There's,
exactly the same for us.
There's an absolutely amazing episode of South Park about
Oh, really?
where I can't think what.
I'm sorry, Marny. After all this deep conversation, all this like real like
Comes back
yes,
to
yes,
Cartman.
yes, it comes back to South Park.
Yeah, there's an episode, isn't there? There's one of the characters, and he's not very sure whether he's gay or not, and they send him to one of those camps where they try and cure him, and he doesn't even realise why he's been sent to the camp.
Yeah.
And it's an absolutely amazing kind of microcosm look at this kid's just like, I don't know why I'm here, and everyone's like, well, it's because you've got a problem, and it's brilliant. You should watch it. We hope you're enjoying the chat so far. If you want to get in touch with us or share your dating stories, you can follow us on Twitter @SwipeMatchMarry. Now let's get back to the podcast.
It was an interesting journey, and I'm so grateful that I've gone through a tricky time. Like, I certainly didn't wake up as a young teenager and go, I'm gay, and then be confident enough to go through it. You know, there was a lot of bullying involved and people telling me I was gay, and me being such a stubborn moron. I was so heavily in denial, but I do think back and just wish that I'd have been confident enough to know and educated enough to sort of know what I was, and just to say yes, Like, yes, I am gay,
Yeah.
because then I know that they would have stopped. And I had a great time at school. School was brilliant, and it was only a select few of people, probably because they were
gay themselves.
questioning themselves.
Yeah, possibly, or scared,
I know
yeah.
definitely one of them was.
Gosh, really?
Weird. In fact, the person I had my first gay experience with
Was your bully?
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was my first gay experience, and that went horrendously afterwards,
Gosh.
because he was just so terrified by the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm
and we were
sure.
very young at the time,
Yeah.
and it was awful. And then another time that kind of traumatized me is my best friend. I stayed at his over the weekend, and he tried it on with me as well, and that was terrifying, just terrifying. And then we sort of never spoke again.
How old were you?
16 at that time. Yeah.
Gosh, and it's hard enough. Like it's hard, isn't it, when you're that age, kind of growing up and learning about your sexuality and learning about boys and girls. It's without the added complication of your same-sex best friend coming on to you when you think that you're straight.
It was kind of traumatizing.
One of the reasons why I get confused about this is because I've never had to sit my parents down and have a conversation with them about being straight. I've never had to justify
You lucky thing.
my sexuality. I did when I was 17 and I had my first serious boyfriend. I had a conversation with my mum about the fact that we were sleeping together.
Ooh.
Because to me, I have a very close relationship with my mum, and it was important for me to tell her that I was being safe and I was exploring my sexuality at that point. And I don't know if you remember what it was like when you lost your virginity, but basically for me, when I did, I just wanted to have sex all the time because it's the best thing ever.
I'd already left home by the time I lost my virginity.
I
was 19. I was late.
You
That's
were late.
okay. No, I don't know. I don't think you were actually that late. I think most people actually lose their virginity at uni these days, so I think that's probably about right.
But I never had to sit my mum and dad down and come out as being a straight person. I never had to justify my sexuality. I never had to say I like boys, but I might want to snog a girl at some point. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that's what annoys me, and I hope that we do get to a point where it's just
well,
not,
you don't have
it's
to
not
classify yourself, do you?
And there was a letter that went viral not that long ago. I think it was a young American boy, and he'd posted this letter online that his parents had left him.
I've seen
you
it.
remember?
I know
Yes.
And wasn't it just the most beautiful thing? His parents had overheard him having a telephone conversation with his boyfriend, and I'm guessing he was maybe 16, 17. And his dad had written him this beautiful letter to say, you don't have to come out to us. We understand and we know, and you don't have to justify it, and we think that you make a beautiful couple.
Yeah.
And that's just the end of it, and we'll see you when you get home from school. And actually, I was so touched by that, and I just thought, God, I hope that that's what we're aiming for.
I definitely
That's
think
where
we
we
will. I absolutely
I think
think
we'll
we
get
will. I don't think we can kind of stand for it anymore. And I think that, awful things like Orlando, and I know that's horrendously deep, but things like that just really bring it home about there's still a little bit of stigma. There's still very, very, very dangerous and ignorant people. They really do step things back a bit, but I think it's times like this that the gay community just go, absolutely not. What are you doing?
Yeah.
We just need to get on with it, and you need to treat us with the respect we deserve, and we need to get on with our lives, because that's all anybody's just trying to do. Life is difficult enough without this bizarre hatred that people
prejudice.
have. And I really do think that we are not far off, especially in the UK, and I am only talking about the UK because I know other countries don't have it as easy, but I think we're getting close to people being okay to sort of say these things, and I'm gay and whatever, and it's not being a thing. I had an RS teacher, religious studies, from my school write to me not that long ago, and she knew that I was gay now, and she remembered me at the time, and we had this big discussion about it, and she was so apologetic for the trouble I had at school, and it wasn't anything to do with her, it wasn't really anything to do with any of the faculty, like it was just a sign of the times. And she said that she was doing an RS class, because religious studies I think ties into everything, sort of citizenship and just people, and she was teaching and mentioned about gay people, lesbians, all this kind of stuff. And she said a couple of kids in the class said, "Oh, miss, I'm gay." And just really nonchalant.
Great.
At the age of 14, she said they were. And she said they've got at least, I think, 3 to 10 people in every year, and a year is about 160 people. So statistically, which they say 1 in 10, I'm not sure how accurate that is, but if you think you've got school children between 3 and 10 in a year of 150 people, you think you're almost bang on.
Yeah.
And that means that people are sort of going, "I'm this."
Great.
That's amazing.
That's
Fantastic.
I remember being at, I think it was sixth form, which is 10, 11 years ago. And out of about 300 to 400 people in my sixth form, and there was one person who stood up and said, "Do you know what, I'm gay." I remember at the time going, being in Yorkshire, it's not as known as London, and since living in London, I've come to meet many people who are gay, many people
Well, it's
who
a bit
are
more
straight.
cosmopolitan,
It's very cosmopolitan, and you love people for their attributes to life rather than what they like. I look back at that and I go, he was so brave. This is only 11 years ago. He was so brave to stand in front of 300, 400 people. And he came in and was an outsider, and he was like, "Do you know what? I'm gay as well." And
It always takes that one person, doesn't it?
And I genuinely think he is incredible, for 11 years ago to have that value and to have that understanding of who he is, and to be able to have that ability to say these things in front of a lot of people who he doesn't know is brilliant.
I think if you can speak up for it, or have the confidence and conviction to speak up for it, that's an amazing thing. I definitely never had that. When going through university, I spent 2 years as straight, in a few sort of relationships, or whatever, one night stands with girls. Don't be sick. And then in my third year, I didn't have to come out, but I realised what I was, and I did come out, and that was very strange getting halfway through. And I told key people, my friends, knowing that it would go around the year very quickly, because it
we
does,
know what
doesn't
uni's
it?
like.
But everyone was amazing. I remember this girl, Kelly, absolutely wonderful human
Did you
being.
have sex with her?
No, but she was gorgeous and so nice, and she said, "You are the last person in the whole year I would ever have thought would come out as gay."
That's interesting, because I was going to ask that question of when it went round the year of, you were gay. Was it a case of everyone was kind of like, "Oh, finally, James, it's happened," or were people generally surprised?
I think definitely a few people were like, "Okay, great." But because there were a few gay people in the year, I think that some of them were surprised, because I think that they would have thought that I would have done it sooner if that had been the case. No, it was definitely a mix, but very supportive. I lived with 3 straight guys at the time, and telling them was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. And I told them first, because I that was the hardest thing.
Why
because
was
I
it
didn't,
hard?
Because I didn't want them to think
you
that
fancied
I had
them.
feelings for them.
Yeah.
Because that's a hard thing for them. Remember, like, you're sort of 19, 20. You're not sort of mature. But they were amazing about it. And I remember going home that night, and they were all really wonderful. In fact, we even made sort of plans to sort of talk about it and like get a takeaway and just sort of discuss it, and they were really there for me and really lovely. And I imagine that if anyone had said a bad word against me, which I'm sure they didn't, they would have been there.
Got you back.
Oh, absolutely got my back.
Yeah.
Especially if they'd been there with me bringing girls home. And there were not many girls, but a couple, and they were very supportive of the whole thing, which is wonderful, and I do owe them a lot.
Isn't it nice that we're starting to get to a point where...
we are getting that point. Well, it's up to us to create a generation that will be more forward-thinking than us, I hope.
I'd love it if my kid was gay.
Why?
I don't know. Just like a little accessory to walk around with.
See, that's the problem.
I'm joking.
Because we are technically fabulous, and I do think that friendship groups can sometimes think that having a gay one is sort of fun, like we're a novelty. I know that's
you
not
are a
what
fun
you
night
really
out.
think. Well, I don't know. I like to be in bed with a cup of tea by 10:30.
You know what I think? I think that there still is a bit of a stereotype around young gay people.
Yeah.
You are the ones that like to go out and party till God knows when.
Some of us,
and
yeah.
that you want to do this, that, and the other, and you leave this really lavish lifestyle. And actually, out of the three of us, you, James, are the one that has the fiance,
You've got the
and the
fiancé.
house, and the cat, and the wedding, and you know,
The fridge magnet's telling you when the wedding is.
You're
Yes.
inverting the stereotype, and that is what I love about our dynamic. Actually,
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice because I can feel like I can have everything that are straight / normal. If we're going to go down the normal road,
No,
I feel like
totally.
I've got everything that the standard relationship has, and I'm very grateful for it.
No.
it's not about a standard relationship. It's just a relationship.
Exactly, and that's exactly what it is. And I'm very proud that I can. And a lot of people I know, some of my gay friends have been married for sort of 5 years and very happy, and they've got a dog and they're thinking about kids, and I love that. I love that it's now a thing. And I never thought that I would ever have children, and now I'm sort of thinking, well, I can, because it is a possibility.
And
Yeah,
it's
lovely.
beautiful that people are people. You should love people for being people, not for
Totally, it
whatever
shouldn't
they
really
are.
matter who you want
It
to go
should-
to bed with.
No.
Really,
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. Who cares?
I'm a massive believer that you have to be comfortable with yourself in whatever way that you need to be a good date, and therefore be open to a good relationship. Like we've mentioned before, I think that these kind of adventurous dates can bring out your true personality, and that is something that your potential other half needs to see. I definitely think that I was in a zone where I was okay with myself. I was okay with being single. I was just sort of happy, and that allowed me to be open enough to sort of welcome in my now fiance. And I think that it's a very, very important thing to do whatever you need to do to know yourself and be comfortable with it. And I think that whether you're gay or straight, it really doesn't matter. It's really nothing to do with it, but you've just got to know yourself and be open to others. And it's still tricky, don't get me wrong, but it's a very important thing to find out, and it really has worked for me. So hopefully it will work for you both as well.
Fingers crossed, touching wood, you know.
I'm getting there.
You're getting there.
I've been very guarded for quite a while now, I think, and I'm definitely trying not to be, because it's detrimental to me, I think.
It is, because you're such a fabulous person, as we both know, and you know, all of your friends and family think of you in a very high regard, and I think that you've just got to go, well, you know, I am. And I'm not saying that people can not hurt you. I just think that if you're okay with yourself, if people are dicks, then just let them be dicks.
And
Just
you
go,
don't need to be in
okay,
your
well,
life.
you're not
right.
right for me,
Yeah.
and you're not going to work,
No more
because
time
I'm
for
fine
fuckboys.
with me, and this is not working, so we're not working. It's okay.
I really want to know what other people's experiences are, because I feel like I had a moment, I was talking to a friend about why I was doing this podcast. I was like, why am I doing it? And I thought, because actually if I hear other 20-something-year-old women, men, straight, single, gay, whatever, talking about it, it's a universal issue. I know a lot of incredible single people living in London that are really struggling and getting messed around, and it's not something about being a woman, it's not something about being a man, it's just really difficult right now, and I think it's almost comforting. I mean, not being horrible to Steve, but I almost feel better that you've had just as much trouble as I have being a man than that.
Oh yeah, you two aren't on your own.
I felt like for
at
a while
all.
that it was quite a female issue, and that's mainly because I've got a lot of single female friends and not that many single male friends. But actually, it's just as hard for everyone. And I think there's many contributing factors to that.
Oh yeah, and it's as you grow older, you get invited to more coupley things as well, and the pressure just builds. I've been invited to a barbecue, and they've gone, "Oh, are you okay just coming as you? Is there anyone you want to bring? Because it's going to be quite coupley." And I'm like, I'm okay with coming by myself.
Yeah, of course,
exactly.
which is brilliant,
You know.
and so you should be.
That's part of the reason why I joined Match.com last year, is because I joined in January. It was kind of a New Year's resolution thing, which is a bit stereotypical. But I'd been to 3 or 4 Christmas parties that involved lots of couples, and I was the only person there on my own. And that didn't bother me, actually. I don't mind being on my own. But what I realised is that I'm not going to meet somebody through my friends.
No, that's very true.
All of those options are exhausted because they're all coupled up, and going to functions and going to events, there isn't anyone there. So then I was in a position where I thought, I don't know how else I'm going to meet someone. Do I want to meet someone? Everyone else seems to be doing it online. I literally felt like my options were really limited. I felt like I had no other choices. And ironically, the person that I'm going on a date with tomorrow is someone that I worked with years ago that was in a relationship
Oh, really?
and isn't now.
I guess you never know, do you?
You just don't know.
I'm currently going on dates with someone who grew up less than a mile away.
Wow.
Well, exactly.
From where I lived up in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
we knew each other when we were kids, and, you know, something's happening now. So
We'll see.
It's very interesting how things
Pan out.
when
So,
you stop looking.
I think if anyone's got anything they'd like to say, or if anyone wants to tell us their experiences or their stories, please tweet us at @swipematchmarry, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Lots of love. Bye.
And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Swipe, Match, Marry. We'll be back next week for more relationship hijinks. Until then, please remember to subscribe using the podcast app so you don't miss out on any future episodes.
If you're braving the world of dating, or even if your dating days are behind you, we'd love to hear from you on Twitter. Give us a shout at @swipematchmarry.
And as always, we hope that next swipe leads to a match and maybe even a lifetime of happiness.
Hello, it's James here. We're halfway through the series and we are thrilled with everyone's responses. We do have a favour to ask. If you would be so kind as to go onto the iTunes or the podcast app and leave us a review, give us a rating, and let us know what you're thinking about the show. It would mean so much to us, and it means that we get Swipe Match Marry out to a larger audience. So let's get on with it. Here is episode 6.